you already have a general idea of what you're looking for as far as characteristics of fish, salamander, and cat and other mammal vertebrae. We went over the regions and some of the main features of them. Now let's go ahead and look at some of the specific characteristics of each region of the mammalian vertebrae. As we go over these features of the mammalian vertebrae, I'm going to keep little kitty here with his head oriented in this direction and his tail over here. Remember, head is anterior and tail is posterior. Anything that's more towards the head than something else is more anterior. Anything that's more towards the tail is more posterior. So what I have in front of me are three different types of vertebrae representing the three of the regions that we need to know. The first you should recognize here. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to let you identify the major structures and the orientation of this bone. So let's take a second, focus in on it, and then come back. Let's start by correctly orienting this vertebra. We look for the centrum and the neural canal, which should lie dorsal to the centrum, the most dorsal portion being the neural spine. To the side are the transverse foramen, which are specific to this vertebral region. Now we look at the neural arch from the dorsal view to see the pre-zygapophyses and the ventral-facing post-zygapophyses. The dorsally oriented articulations are pre-zygapophyses and should point towards the head. With this correctly oriented, we can now determine centrum type. Notice which direction the convex and concave portions of the centrum face to determine the centrum type. With that, we've correctly oriented and described a cervical vertebra. So that just quickly sums up some of the major distinctions about a cervical vertebrae. Now let's move on to the next in the line, which is the thoracic vertebrae. These are the ones which bear your ribs, and therefore we should be looking for certain articulation points where the rib will connect. I'm going to take a second and let you look at this close up and identify some of the major features associated with that as well. This thoracic vertebrae is correctly oriented so that the head of the animal is to the right and the tail is to the left. Looking at this image, you should be able to identify the two costal demifacets on either side of the bone, as well as the costal facet. One of the last vertebral regions as far as individual bones are concerned is the lumbar vertebrae, which is your lower back. If you ever need lumbar support, that's what you're trying to take care of. So the main characteristic of the lumbar vertebrae are these long and beautiful pleuropophyses. I'm going to go ahead and step back and do another orientation of this bone so that you can test yourself on your knowledge of all the general characteristics of the vertebrae. Once we get past the lumbar vertebrae, we're now into bones that tend to be fused to one another. The first of which is the sacrum. The sacrum is a bunch of fused bones together which still retain a lot of characteristics of the other vertebrae. So be sure that you know what these structures are and main characteristics of them. So the tail end of this review is the final part of the vertebral region, which is called the caudal vertebrae. These extend past the sacrum and slowly get longer and less descript until it ends at the tip of the tail.